Hello and welcome to today's episode of Global Dialogue, the podcast where we delve into the complexities of international organizations and their roles in shaping our world. I'm your host, Armando Garcia, and in this episode, we will explore some of the current challenges faced by the United Nations as well as the enduring characteristics of the League of Nations that persist in modern international organizations. Well, let's get started with the United Nations, an organization that emerged from the ashes of the Second World War with the hope to prevent future conflicts and foster international cooperation. The UN has been pivotal in addressing global issues, yet it faces an array of challenges in the 21st century. First and foremost is the issue of representation and equity among member states. The UN Secretary Council, with its five permanent members, wielding veto power often, comes in the criticism for reflecting the power structures that were from a bygone era. A small and developing nation argue that this system does not accurately represent the world today, particularly when it comes to making decisions that have global ramifications. Climate change poses another significant challenge as the effect of a global warming planet become increasingly catastrophic in the UN is under immense pressure to galvanize international action, while mechanisms like the Paris Agreement signify progress, the actual implementation and enforcement of this agreement remain a formidable challenge due to the conflict, national interest, and economic considerations. Another pressing issue is the human rights. The United Nations has made a great stride with the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, as we all know. But yes, enforcing this right across all member states is a continuous struggle. Political complexities and sovereignty concern often hinder the UN ability to intervene effectively in human rights abuses. And now let's draw some parallel with the League of Nations, the precursor to the United Nations formed after the World War One. Despite its ultimate inability to prevent World War Two, the League of Nations instituted several principles that have endured in current international organizations. The concept of collective security was a hallmark of the League, and it continues to be a fundamental principle for the UN. Through implementation can be continuous. As we often see in the UN peacekeeping missions, the idea is that peace in one part of the world is the concern of all, and thus international intervention can be justified to maintain it. And another interesting characteristic is the focus on diplomacy and international law. The League of Nations laid down the groundwork for the peaceful conflict resolution and the idea that dialogue should precede instead of military action. And the legacy persists in the UN modus operandi, with the numerous diplomatic forums and international courts aiming to resolve disputes before they escalate to armed conflict. Interestingly, the League of Nations also pioneered in global cooperation in areas such as health through the Health Organization, which can be seen as a precursor to today's World Health Organization, showing that the roots of many specialized UN agencies lie in the League efforts to address specific global issues. To conclude with this episode, while the improvement of the League of Nations can still be discerned in the structure and in the function of the United Nations and other international bodies, the UN today must navigate on the landscape that is vastly different from of its predecessor, and it is grappling with the new challenges such as the digital divide, the cybersecurity, and the increasing of importance of the non-stop actors, all of which necessitate a revelation of international protocol and strategies. The path ahead for the UN is paved with both the legacy of the past and the uncertainties of the future. Its agility to adapt and evolve will determine how effectively it can uphold these principles and achieve its goals in its dynamic international environment. Thank you for turning to Global Dialogue. Join us again next week as we take a closer look at the evolving role of international law in cybersecurity. Until then, this is Armando Garcia, and see you in the next episode.